What's up, guys? Back with a brand new video today, and I got some breaking news for you guys. If you've been living under a rock recently, then let me tell you, the Time magazine released on Monday that dire wolves have been officially brought back from extinction. Let that soak in for a second. I bet you guys are just as excited as I am, so let me spare you all that time having to research stuff. Feel free to still research stuff, but I got you covered. I'm going to be covering all the current news that we have about them, so you don't have to do any research if you don't feel like it. And yeah, this is basically an entire breakdown of the whole situation, so obviously a lot to unpack here, so let's roll into today's video. For those who don't know, Anaxion dirus, commonly known as the dire wolf, died out around 12 to 10,000 years ago, living to the late Pleistocene era. While some remains have been found in South America, they primarily lived in North America. You might be wondering what makes them different from modern-day wolves. They're 25% larger than their closest living relative, the gray wolf. They normally clock in around 70 to 130 pounds, but some specimens have been found to exceed that all the way to 150 pounds. They also had a thicker coat of fur, stronger jaw, and a slightly wider skull. You might be wondering, well, who was the company behind this? And you might remember the woolly mouse. It's the same company behind the woolly mouse called Colossal Biosciences. Most famously, dire wolves are depicted most famously in the hit TV show Game of Thrones. Colossal Biosciences was able to successfully clone 3 dire wolves. Their names are Remus, Romulus, and Khaleesi. The 2 brothers, Remus and Romulus, are now 6 months old. Their sister, Khaleesi, is only 3 months old, and there's no clear information if they're related. And for a little bonus for you guys, this is what they sound like. So yeah, adorable. You might be wondering, where are they living? Are they living in some lab? And to that I say, a 2,000-acre wildlife reserve. Approved by the American Humane Society, I might add, and 24/7 veterinary care. With literal security drones. So yeah, very pampered pooches. Now you must be wondering by now, how did they do it? And I will answer all those questions right now. It all started with 2 direwolf specimens that had extremely well-preserved genetic material. The first was a 72,000-year-old skull, and the other was a 12,000-year-old tooth. The DNA from the skull was extracted from the inner ear bone. They then isolated the genetic material, and from some stroke of luck, were able to get 2 entire DNA sequences off of that. They then went to the closest living relative, the gray wolf. Colossal even created an entirely new blood draw technique called EPC, which is totally less invasive for the animal and still efficient. Even though they got all the bits and pieces of the genome from the direwolf specimens, they still need to piece that together to create the entire 2 genomes. That's where the gray wolf genome comes into play. They can map back on the gray wolf genome to create the entire pure 2 direwolf genomes. They also wanted to know what made the direwolves and the gray wolves different on a genetic level, so they can get genetically diverse direwolves and know what genes they need to edit. They use this platform called FormBio to help them figure this out. They say one of the most exciting differences they found was the difference in the Alcoral gene, which controls the size of the animal. So then they use gene editing tools and take gray wolf cells and then take out the genes that make it look like a gray wolf and then implant the genes that make it a dire wolf. They make hundreds of changes while they're inside of the cell to reduce as many times they have to go back into the cell because it puts a lot of stress on the cell when going in. That technique is called multiplex gene editing. At the end of this process, they made 20 edits to 14 genes. They then take an egg out of the surrogate dog, which was a hound mix, and then they take the genetic material and nucleus out of that egg and then implant the direwolf genes into that egg and then implant it back into the surrogate dog. This is the same process that brought us Dolly the sheep. May she rest in peace. Then boom, the direwolves were brought back from extinction, right? Well, actually, right and wrong. Let me explain. Technically, these guys aren't 1,000% genuine, real direwolves, which is practically impossible with the technology we have. And you gotta put this into perspective, how amazing it is that Colossal was even able to make these guys in the first place. Were there a couple shortcuts? Yes, there were. Could there be some improvements in the process? Yes, but this is just the first attempt of many more along the way, and I feel like the Colossal hate train has gotten way out of hand and out of proportion, and for those who are like, oh, those aren't real direwolves, meh, 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 I bring up just a simple question. You guys, my audience, my subscribers, I bet you guys, at least 90% of you, love the Jurassic franchise as much as I do. Am I coming out here saying that the science in those movies are 100% accurate? No, I believe almost none of it is accurate. But some of the basic principles and concepts that are in the movies are backed by science. Take, for instance, the raptors or Rexy from the original park. Like, for the raptors, they had to fill in the gaps in the genome with frog DNA. Let's say you go out and you find a specimen of whatever extinct creature you want. Let's say, for this instance, since I just made Sid, I'm going to use Megatherium. Go check that video out. It's amazing. Anyways, let's say you're lucky and get any usable genetic material. Emphasis on lucky. It's almost certain you're not going to get everything you need. You're going to need something to fill in the gaps. Like, let's say with the direwolves. They used the gray wolf, which was the closest living relative to the direwolf, to fill in the bits and pieces. Back to the example on Rexy and the raptors from Jurassic Park. They used frog DNA to fill in the gaps. Were those a one-to-one recreation of the raptors? Absolutely not. And it's impossible with the technology we have to create a one-to-one replica of any extinct animal. It's impossible unless we had some massive scientific breakthrough to make like some like device that could accurately make a one-to-one replica of any extinct animal. It's impossible. Let's be honest, guys. And seeing all these wild accusations like the wolves are being abused, back to earlier in the video, they're living on a 2,000-acre property. That's way more than even an average wolf needs. How is that being abused? In my opinion, guys, we should stop complaining about them not making an exact recreation of a direwolf and be actually impressed about how we're able to even get this far in bringing back extinct animals. First woolly mice and now direwolves? Heck, I bet they're even hiding a baby woolly mammoth from the public right now, and we're just going to be finding out a couple months from now. And to those who are saying, well, we should be worrying more about the endangered animals more than the extinct ones, Colossal cloned 2 litters of red wolves, which are critically endangered because there's almost no genetic diversity among the red wolves. And these new ones that they cloned have different traits which will help spice up the gene pool, therefore bouncing back their population. In conclusion, this Colossal hate has to stop, and rather we should be supporting them and just be amazed that we've gotten this far with the direwolves. Sorry it took this long to get this video out to you guys. I promise you, the first time I knew about it, I jumped right on it starting this video. I just have been so busy. I literally just had my college algebra midterm the other day. So I've just been so busy, guys. I'm sorry I got this out later, but this is basically the entire story so far, and I'll keep giving updates to you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe, and see you guys in the next video.